Woodcraft, helping you make woodwork.
You can't. They have, because these have to rotate against. Okay, you see how these arcs are going the right same way? Flip them over. Okay, you see that? But if you look in here, for example, right in here, you can see through it, and that's where the bolt goes. And you can see as you rotate these things that that little hole moves in and out, and that's what gives the expansion and contraction. Another thing you can do, and these things can just be left dry wood. If you want to put all kinds of armor seal and all kinds of things like that on it, that'd go knock yourself out. What I do though is on the outside of the discs, I take a quarter or 3/16 round over bit, just round this over, and also the finger holes, I round those over too. So you can do that. So here's where the magic happens. Let's see now. Get this hardware. Here's the axle bolt. This uses what's called, I've learned all kinds of hardware things doing this. This is called a stop nut. It's the one that has a nylon in it, so it's kind of a locking nut. And I take the bolt head. Oh, don't make the mistake I made once. Make sure you get your hardware, don't get it threaded all the way down because it'll bind on you. Okay, so the head of the bolt, the top of the bolt, goes onto the inside, down under that, and then that goes in here, a washer, and let's see, this is all 7/16 inch hardware. What you want to do is, I'm going to loosen that just a little bit. This does not have to be real tight. This just basically kind of holds the discs together. Yeah, that's fine. Maybe just a little more, I'll loosen it. There we go. Okay, now. You see how these things contra-rotate against one another? Okay, so we're going to stick this on our chuck, if I can get it on there. Kind of hold it on there and snug that up. Okay, you can see the steel fender washer here, and then the nylon washer on top of it. If you're accurate when you do all these things, all these grooves should line up no matter where they're positioned. I don't know if you can see it or not. There's a pencil line right there. There's a pencil line right there. That just told me that everything is lined up all the way through. So let's see, I'm going to find, there's the outside hole right there. Come in, where is it? There it is. Goes in there like that. Just about there. That's what my satellite receiver says for my TV. Just about there. And a half an hour later, it's just about there. Come on. There's another hole there. That goes on there. And that goes in there. You can actually feel those washers with the burr on one side and the other. So those of you that have looked at these things online, it's not as confusing now, I hope. Does it make more sense? I hate to admit it, but I find I built a couple of these and I finally figured it out. That's pretty common for me. There, last one. Get the washer down there. Goes on there. There it is. Longworth Chuck. Now, one thing you can do, that instead of putting a bolt through here for the axle, remember we had a 1/4-inch hole? What you could do is glue a piece of 1/4-inch dowel in this plate here. Not this one, this plate, but leave that dowel sticking out a little bit. So this thing just, because of all these things, it's not going to come apart. So if this thing is just riding, this plate here is riding on that dowel, then this surface is flat. You can actually capture a piece of square wood in this thing too. You can do a lot of different things with these. So that's the Longworth Chuck. So any questions at all? And yes, sir.
Bob, if you had gone, instead of using 6, if you had used 8 spirals, could you capture a square piece of?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And you'll see when you start looking at these things on the internet, for example, the big ones, when you get little small ones, you really only need 4 buttons, little stoppers there. It'll hold it just fine. So you'll see half of the arcs on a big one will only go in so far, but the other 4 will go all the way in. So, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. But there's only one company that I know of that makes Longworth Chucks commercially, and it says the big one is about $400. And something like this, the best way to do these is do it with a group of people, because for $12 you can get a bag of rubber stoppers, and so just buy the stuff in bulk. You can do that. But it works very, very well. I also use a vacuum chuck, and I love that thing. That's the best thing in the world. But sometimes it just doesn't work. Maybe the workpiece is porous and you can't pull a vacuum against it. If you're doing natural edge bowls, this won't grab that. I mean, there's things that this can't do, but it's just handy to have this in your turning arsenal. And you can make one of these if you bought all the parts just locally. Probably $50 to $75, something like that. Actually, Woodcraft had 3/4-inch 12 by 12 squares on sale for $3.13. So there's $6.26 of wood. And, so, I mean, the most expensive part is going to be your faceplate or faceplate ring, and they're in the low 30s. So that's it. Yes, sir.
Now we're clamping or something we're going to make into a bowl or a bowl.
Yeah.
How far out this way would you go as the
Good question. And probably the best way to answer that is to say not very far. This is essentially for doing like bowls, okay, and they can be fairly deep, but things like a flower vase, you'd have to support it. And you should, no matter what you're turning, when you're turning, wherever, you should always use tailstock support as long as you can. It's just a safety thing. So to use this thing, I'm going to lock the spindle there. There we go. That way I can turn this in and out. And once you get that thing down there, just kind of put a little hand pressure on it, squeeze it with your hand, and start to tighten this. So how do you tighten lug nuts on a car when you change a tire? Opposites, right? Okay. Once I've got one of these snug down, I can just let loose. So I go down here. Well, it's kind of hard to get at. Let me take the spindle lock off now. Turn the thing up here. Turn that on there, that on there, and that on there. And as you tighten these things down, you can see those things compress. And this one that I had on, is it this one right here? This is a classic example. The bottom of this bowl, when it was turned, was really never finished. They just left, whoever did this just left the chuck thing here. So you could put this on here and shape this. You got to be careful that you don't try and remove too much material at one time, and you should kind of pull and scrape on this a little bit. The other thing is speed. Couple hundred RPM, 200, 300 RPM. Oh, okay. Couple hundred RPMs. You'll see these on the internet. They'll say you can go to 600. Don't even go there. Maybe 300 max. That's 460. I wouldn't go much over 300 or 400. Obviously, the bigger ones, I mean, that's really spinning quick around the outside of that thing. So.
How accurate is your concentric? In other words, when you put that on this just kind of your bowl at the edge.
Well, it's going to be as accurate as, you know, remember we did that registration point through there. It's going to be as accurate as that is. There's going to be some what they call run out. There's going to be a little bit of wobble in these things, but unless you're making a $10,000 bowl, you'll never know the difference.
And you're basically
Yeah.
working at the base anyway.
Yeah. Both those big platters up on the table that I'd made out of the big leaf maple, I had those. I turned the bottom of those with them mounted on that big chuck there. So you're just not going to know the difference. That's why God made 60 grit sandpaper, so you can meld that stuff in. So, any other questions about this? Yeah. Up here in the corner of the table, these white sheets are some little handouts. It's got some more information on it. There are 2 websites on the back of that I encourage you to look at. One of them is a YouTube video. The guy speaks kind of broken English. I think he's Portuguese or something, but it's an excellent website. So those 2 things with what you saw here, you should be able to just crank one of these out in no time. So thanks for coming. You